we again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, just plus the world's best quiz. The Cubs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
We're back again, Benny.
We're doing this.
We're doing it.
We're back. We're coming back. It's like been a slow back up to speed after the Canaries. I'm still like recovering, but I'm back. I'm definitely back. We put a video out today. We've got some more stuff coming, and now the podcast, second in a row. Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good fun.
We did have some complaints about the volume of the opening track versus our mic volume. So let us know if anything has changed. That's it. That's all we've got. But okay, let's just go straight into it. Topic of this podcast today. You know, it's I'm going to answer this question a few times, but I think it's interesting because a lot of people have different thoughts on it. But how many boards do you need? I mean, that's like a surfboard type question. And it's not just about boards. We're going to go into gear as well. But this question is, how much gear do you need? How many boards do you need? How many sails? You know, are you guys minimalists out there? Are you like kit hoarders? Do you never throw anything away? Are you guys that go through the retro bins or, you know, the Facebook ads and pick up some old beauties and then store them in the garage and never use them? Or are you a guy that gets out there on them and uses them? Are you a guy that buys all the brand new stuff like Mr. Paul Van Bellen?
No. I had a beautiful week this week, Benny. There's not, as a windsurfer, there's not much better, is it, than unwrapping a new board or sail? It's just...
Well, for anyone who hasn't seen it, Mr. Van Bellen there has just released a type of unboxing video, and it's got some gems in there. It isn't just unboxing a board. There is some, you know, thoughts for life in there, some windsurfing thoughts, and some opinions on the boards he's got. And he has just used, I think, one of them today. I've not spoke to him on purpose because I thought it'd be good to do the chat here. But maybe just talk through the guys who haven't seen the video, what you've got in your quiver, what you've just received, you know, and maybe we'll go into that.
Yeah, cool. Well, for the past year, I've been using Goya gear. So it's been a bit of an exercise because before I had Ezzy sails, I had OES custom boards. OES is an Australian custom board. And I had a Stony. So anyway, to change over to Goya, it was a bit of a process because obviously I decided, all right, if I'm going to go with Goya, then, you know, there's the mast, there's the extensions, there's the sails and the whole thing. So it was a bit of a rigmarole to get it all done, but I'm just about there now. And this week, what I've actually got at the moment, it's actually a bit embarrassing because
I can tell you seem it.
No,
you seem a little bit nervous about telling people you've got 3 boards in a range of about this much.
Well, the thing is, if I tell people what I've got, they'll never, ever donate any money to me again. So they'll just think, mate, you've got enough. And that's true. I actually do have enough. But no, actually, I'll tell you exactly what I have right now. I have – do you want me to go through the whole quiver?
I would go like personally. We're going to ask this question. So if people are just tuning in because it is a podcast, people are dripping in. The main question is how many boards do you need and how many boards do you have? You know, kit-wise, what sales, that sort of stuff. That's the general idea of this podcast, just to talk through it, and we'll kind of get a feel for the windsurfing community. I know we're going to have a lot of different people out there, so it'd be interesting. And obviously where you live. Let us know where you live, what conditions you're sailing in, that type of thing.
Well, here in Geraldton, it's almost like you need 2 kind of different quivers because you've got like Geraldton, which is basically like a skate park so you need a board that's kind of just an all-round versatile board, gets up on the plane and, you know, is fast and that kind of thing. And then you have other spots like Margaret River, and we have other spots further north of here, which are more down the line spots. And you kind of, I mean, you can have one board that does it all, like it does a wide range of things. But when you live here, and if you're really into windsurfing, you basically get a quiver for Geraldine and a quiver for, say, up north where it's down the line. Just because
we should just
really
clear this up.
into,
We are just talking about wave sailing because Paul is effectively
yeah, sorry,
at the moment kind of just solely a wave sailor. So for this moment in time, we're just talking about wave sailing in Western Australia. Just wanted to clear that.
Yeah, sorry. It is wave sailing. Around here, there's not too many people with slalom gear or freeride gear, just because we're lucky enough to have pretty strong winds, and you can get away with sort of wave style gear. So anyway, currently what I have 4 boards. I have this one right behind me, which is Stoney. So that's Mark Stone. That's Jager's dad, who does custom shapes here. So that's a great board for Geraldine. It's a polyester board, so it's a touch heavier, but it's a bit more forgiving because it flexes a little bit more. And they just, obviously because he lives here, the shapes are really inspired and developed for this area. So that's my sort of go-to board at Coronation. I have an 88 Goya Custom Quad 8, which is the current Goya wave board, an 88. I've just received an 84, which was in my unboxing video. And I also just have received a Nitro 2 91 litre, because we do get quite a bit of onshore-y, conditions. And I thought, well, it's designed for that. So I thought I'll, give it a go. I have if you didn't see my unboxing video, I have a deal with Goya. It's called, like, I'm essentially what's called a team rider. I mean, I'm not a pro sailor or anything like that. I'm sort of more of a ambassador, or if you like, but I'm on a team deal. So I still have to buy my gear, but it's at a good rate. And because of that, I can afford to just get a few extra bits and pieces. And if I don't like it or doesn't suit me, I can just on sell it and at least recoup most of my money depending on the condition. So that's the boards. With the sails,
Wait a second, just stop at the boards there, because I think that's interesting, because obviously not everyone has the luxury of doing that, because essentially what you're doing, and this is a lot to do with you're in Geraldton, which is, pretty far out of the normal way, and probably the only way you're going to get to try a board is to order it, unless luckily someone turns up with that board you want to try. So essentially you're demoing the board with, you're essentially demoing the board. I mean, and that makes sense. Like, because, and that's where I think this is another conversation, but I think with windsurfing, it would be amazing to have these test centers or something like this in places like Coronation, or these amazing sort of really iconic places where they've got good conditions and it's kind of everyone, and they could kind of have like this test center. I know Simmer have done it in Rossniger. I think the first one I saw was the OTC, the official test center in Tenerife, and their whole idea for their center, which has now moved into Weymouth and whatever, but the whole idea was to get boards from each brand and each sail brands, and then you could basically go there and try everything and decide what you wanted to buy, and then you'd go home and obviously buy it. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, here in Geraldton, we don't have any rent. Like, there's no shops. There's no shops in Geraldton. There's no rental places. There's a few. Yeah. There used to be, in the heyday, there was four shops. But just the current, like the issue is that I think back in the day, people would travel here and they would just buy some sails and boards and that sort of thing. But people are so particular about their gear these days that I think it would be very hard to satisfy what people want. Like, everyone, like, for example, you would rock up, you have your Simmer gear, someone else wants their, Goya gear or whatever. So I think it's a bit tricky, like, to service all that. I mean, I do think there is you could definitely do a hire thing. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
But selling would be a little bit tricky, because and the other thing too is when people travel here, 9 times out of 10 they're traveling with their gear. Like they're rocking up with their gear because it's what they love. But anyway, because we don't have a hire center, it does make it tricky to try stuff. And yeah, so and also Goya in Western Australia is not like, you see a few boards, but you don't see too many sales. Like, it's very dominated by Severn, because obviously Severn is is sort of started in WA, and there's a lot of riders here, so you don't really get to try a lot of the different things with the Goya stuff. So yeah, anyway, so that's the boards. The sales, I basically have just gone to town on sales. I essentially have two quivers. I bought the Bonsai 11 carbon, which is again the current ones. The carbon's the sort of more high end, has a slightly better wind range. I haven't tried any of the others, but that's what is marketed as a bit better wind range. I thought, okay, well that's good. And I also bought a quiver of Bonsai 11 Surfs, which are slightly higher aspect, shorter boomed, more maneuverable, and I use that for sailing.
Hang on. I didn't know this. You got two quivers.
I know. Oh, yeah.
So you are the official test center in WA by the sounds of it.
Well, I'm the only tester. Yeah. No, it's completely ridiculous. Currently I have 9 sales.
Oh, this is getting better. I didn't know.
No. I've got 9 sales. They're all brand new, pretty much. Currently I have 6 masts. I have one of each size in the 100%, one in each size in the 80%, which is the more bomb-proof. And they also do this other mast, which is called the Ultra Pro, which is like, it's not supposed to be used in waves. Well, I've ordered 3 of them as well, because apparently, according to Cisco, he's like, don't tell anyone, but you should have a go at these masts, and if the waves are small, because these things are just epic. So, all right, I'll get 3.
When you say Cisco, you mean Francisco Goya. You're like, I know you're on nickname terms and stuff.
No, we all know him as Cisco. Don't we?
I don't think they do. I think it's just you.
Oh, okay.
It's like, hey, okay. Cisco, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I know. So anyway, I guess I'm living my old dream. But the thing is, it's only because I can get this better deal that obviously I can do it. And the other thing too is, I lived in my van for a couple of years before I got to Geraldton. During COVID, I was vanning and living in around, and even before all that, I really was a sort of person that, like, I never buy much stuff. Like, everything, like, for example, this top, I think somebody gave this to me. This T-shirt. No, but honestly, like, somebody gave me this T-shirt. My dad.
I'm sorry.
No, well, I know.
I didn't act not surprised when you said.
No, you're laughing, mate. Don't I look fashionable? Yeah.
I was going to say, if you bought that, something's wrong.
Oh, Betty, you can talk. Did you buy that T-shirt?
No.
If I bought this? Dude.
I don't know why that's funny. Dude, I'm not sure if I was meant to act surprised when you said someone gave it away.
Wait, Betty, this is a Dolce & Gabbana. It cost me $800, man. No.
It would not.
Actually, I have no idea what it is. It's incredibly comfortable and warm. It's cold here, mate.
Look, I am not dissing anyone's fashion sense.
No. Sounds like you are, actually.
I know.
So this beanie I got from my dad. Anyway, the point was, before you rudely interrupted me, was I really spent very little money on much. So I'm like, stuff that I'm going to spend it on windsurf. Holy shit.
That should have been the thumbnail. He's got all the gear and he's got no clothes.
He's got no fashion. He's got no style.
Paul Van Bellen and just loads of gear.
Naked. Next time. No, good. Mate. But anyway, so anyway, because of that, because I'm not buying lots of other things, I just spend it on windsurf gear. It's my other way of also just giving back to the industry and keeping it alive.
Oh, shit. The sacrifices the windsurfers make. That's
I know.
that is it. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
you know what it's like, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, but anyway. Nick's asking what's so funny. I agree. What is so funny, Benny? What's going on?
Know. I just,
So yeah. So anyway, so currently I have just a huge quiver. Also, do you want to hear? Because today actually we had our first sea breeze, right? And it's the 28th of August, so we're still technically in winter, but we had our first. I'm going to get a complex soon.
Look, I always got into trouble with this at school. I get the giggles for no reason, and not no reason, but there'll be something that makes me laugh. I haven't had this for ages. There's not that much funny in my life right now. It's all crying babies and stuff. But sometimes when I start, I can't stop. It's all good. I think the last time was the Pete Cabrina podcast. But seems to be always on the podcast.
How about this? Is this better?
No, you keep it on. You haven't got a smoking jacket.
I put this is my alpaca blanket. So there we go. This is cozy. Anyway, so today, if anyone had followed again my unboxing video, I showed that I had this nitro, and today I used it for the first time. The wind was about 18 knots. It was very marginal. I thought this is the perfect time. I'm 86 kilos. It was a 91 litre board. I'm very late to this party, like as far as that style of board, because essentially it's like a stubby style. Have you had much to do with stubby boards?
Yeah, a little bit in the more recent times. I mean, how long is it? Do you remember? Do you know the stats on it?
It's it's 211, 59.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's 59 centimeters wide. What else?
Actually, it's not that wide.
No, it's not really. It's
parallel.
It's just, it keeps the wide, like it's fairly wide in a lot of places.
Okay.
But anyway, it was super interesting. I was a bit worried because it looks quite wide and you sort of think, oh, this thing's not, I don't know, it's not going to really turn or something. But I was actually surprised how skatey it was. Like it's quite maneuverable and flicky. Like it was.
Comes from the length.
It's harder.
You can kind of throw it around a bit.
Just the swing weight, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
But so I was. But the other thing was, for anybody who's considering a board like that or that nitro, like I said, I'm 86 kilos, is 91. I think that if you're sailing in a spot that's marginal, then I would maybe even go up a size to 99 because it's you do, like I found that you probably, like I when I looked at it, I thought, oh, this thing will just get going in a puff of wind because it looks like a bit of a boat, but you do actually need a bit of power just to get it going because of, I don't know, the water length and stuff.
I was going to say the bits that I found, because I mean, Ola, the Simmer style shaper, he was quite early into this whole short stuff. So he had these boards called the Frugal, which was the first one because it was frugally, I don't know, on the length. So they were the first ones. And I personally, I didn't quite get on with them. Some people, I found it was like a really Marmite style type of board, not just the Frugal, but just the stubby type boards in general. And what I think the common misconception, again, I can't speak for the Goyas and every other brand, but I remember the common misconception was these boards are for less than ideal conditions. But in my kind of experience with them I think it's for a different style of sailing rather than less than ideal conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Because it's actually, like I was just saying before, it's not that wide. It's not like it's like a massive boat, but it is parallel. So there's a lot of width in the tail, compared to the mid side. Like your 88 probably won't be much different in the wide point, but obviously it carries it all the way to the back. But then because it's short, it doesn't actually get going that easily because it's got such a short water length. It's like surfboards. they carry speed really well, and they're quite nimble because they're relatively wide and short, but actually getting going, it's not as easy as a longer style board. So there are a few misconceptions. Again, obviously, it's like, it's not like the one box ticks everything. Different brands have different styles of boards, and it does make a difference. And it's like I always say with quads and tri-fins, or thrusters and quads, and I hear this thing all the time. Oh, I don't like quads because they don't get going, or I don't like this because, and it's like, well, a lot of it has to do with the design of the board. It's not just a one size fits all. If it's a quad, it doesn't get going. If it's a tri-fin, it gets going. If you've got a shitload of rocker on the thruster, the tri board, it's also going to be pretty sluggish, or whatever. So it does make a difference, that. But I'm interested to see, because when I saw you unbox it, I watched the whole video. I've got to mention this video. If you haven't seen this video, my God, I've struggled to watch you unbox it. You were like, I'd never seen anyone take a box apart like it. I was like, oh my God. I'm like this. Oh, I'm going to slide it out. And you're like, just ripping pieces off.
Well, the board was stuck in there. So I was like, and then you try and cut it with scissors. Oh, this is slow.
And I know what it's like when you're filming it as well. It's also a bit awkward. So you kind of and then you're like, and you need someone to pull the other end. I always get the dog or somebody to pull the other end. But yeah, no, it was quite interesting. But I saw you unbox it, and I was like, fuck. So now you've got an 84, an 88, and a 91. But it's a 91 Stubby, which I thought might be a bit close to that 88. But again, they're different. Yeah. And then it goes back to what we said at the beginning of the podcast, where you're pretty much demoing these boards, because you've got the luxury of, getting them at a half decent price. You can pass the love on to somebody else as well, which might not have as many boards and stuff as you. So it's interesting. I was going to say, so did you draw any conclusions today, or is it still really early? I mean, it's one sale.
Yeah, unfortunately, because when I went out, the wind was, like I said, it was about 18 knots out of 5.3, and I was really on the edge of getting going. Anyway, I got going, but that wind only lasted about 15 minutes before it sort of went down to 15 knots. And so it was, but I got a couple of little waves, but I mean, look, even though I didn't really get a good test of it, but I was surprised at how nimble it felt. It was actually compared to the custom quad 8 Goya, I found it more sort of skatey, and you just flick around a bit playful. More. So yeah, it's definitely playful. I think it's it's an interesting board. Like I said, I'm late to the party because this style of boards have been around for a long time. Obviously, the Nitro 2 is the latest version of all those, but it definitely has a place. But I think what happened was that then I changed back to the 88 just to get a comparison, but then the wind was dying. But the 88 gets going quicker. I mean, I could already feel that. Just you could sort of sense that it was you could get going quicker, and it's just a bit easier. I think the Nitro, you've got to go a bit bigger. So if you're new to wave sailing or just getting into it, go slightly bigger on that board because of they're shorter. They're harder to tack. They're just a bit you almost need to be a bit more finessed with the way you sail. It's not quite as forgiving.
I think that's what I was going to say. That's the misconception. I think most people think, these Stubby boards, they're wide and they're very easy going, but actually they're short and they're quite they're quite kind of lively. I don't want to say erratic, but they're quite nervous. You can get really playful. So like you say, I think sizing up kind of makes sense, unless that is the feel of board you're looking for, because then you can have it as your kind of main board. It's just a different feel of the board. It'll definitely feel more nervous and kind of roll back on itself and kind of playful. Yeah, but it is a different feeling. It's not so easy to explain, I think, until you try it.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I'm going to, next time when it's say 20 knots or a bit stronger wind, then I'll obviously have another go and see what happens. If the board ends up having this really large overlap with what I've currently got, then I'll probably move it on, because I don't particularly want to have lots of boards that just have a huge cross, like, you know, an overlap with what I got, because you obviously want boards that are, you know, complementary.
Yeah.
So I'll just suss that out. But it's really good for me to try. It's just, I don't know. I'm basically living my dream of just being able to try all these different things and just see what works for me. And it's just a learning thing, you know, that now I understand a bit better when, you know, how it works. And because, you know, because you go onto these websites of all the, you know, the brands, and obviously there's a lot of choices with boards and sales, and, you know, so, you know, sometimes you do think, well, what's that board actually like? You don't always know, right? You know, it is tricky.
But I think it's interesting because, like, now also obviously because you're a content creator, video maker, whatever, you know, and you're a decent level windsurfer, you know, probably better than some people, or at least the same level of the good windsurfers out there. I think they relate to you more than they relate to obviously Brasinio. I mean, you know, Brasinio is an amazing sailor, but he's also very highly sponsored. And as much as he might be saying honestly or whatever, he's not in the same relationship as you would be. So I think hearing it from you, again, I'm speaking for other people here, so feel free to let me know in the comments what you guys think at home. But I think it's really interesting, and it's probably great for Goya to have kind of this real world tester, let's say, you know, and you're giving honest feedback. And that comes with the caveat that you like certain things and you've got certain conditions, which doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, he said that about that board, that means it's this. You know, you've got to take it as, this is Paul Van Bellen, he weighs this much, he's in Geraldton in these style of waves, and he's also likes that type of sailing. You know, you've got to add all those things in. It's not that, oh, he got rid of that board, it must be, it's not working good.
No.
You know, and that's what people need to be able to, you know, pull out of these type of things, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why I'm almost a bit hesitant to give a strong opinion, because you say there's so many factors that play into somebody's choice. And, you know, and as you know, like sometimes you can get on a board and go, I love this, and then you give it to somebody else and they're like, no, I don't know. And you just think, obviously everyone's different with the way they sail. Are they more front foot or back foot pressure, you know, pressure if they're when in turns, and, you know, this whole thing. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think also, I mean, we spoke briefly before about this, but I guess what is good for me at the moment, because I'm certainly not a pro level sailor, and I'm happy to admit that, but also I don't have a full on sponsorship with a brand, even though Goya in this case are helping me. But because of that, I can objectively say what I think without worrying too much about stepping on too many toes. You know, even in that unboxing video, I mentioned in there that I bought a 94 before and I didn't really gel with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, you jump on the board and it's like, it's very easy. You just jump on, it sails, you think, oh yeah, this would be, but it almost felt like a free wavy sort of board to me. I couldn't really quite turn it. The rails are kind of chunky on it. Then I went down to 88 and it was way better. So I sold on the 94. But for example, I tried a Simmer Flywave 99 when Kai Cacciadorian lent it to me in Fiji, and instantly I could turn that board, you know, and that's 5 liters supposedly more. Yeah. So you know, I'm not scared. I'm not scared to sort of say, well, if I had to choose between that 94 Goya or that 99 Flywave, I'd get that 99 Flywave, even though I do have this deal with Goya. So, and it's good. I just think, you know, if I give my opinion like that, then hopefully people will then, you know, trust what I have to say rather than just say everything's all good all the time, because that's not very authentic.
I think it's interesting. I read quite a lot of the comments on your unboxing video, and you could tell people, you know, it's kind of refreshing for people to have that type of opinion. And interesting you say about the Flywave, because I would say, again, the Flywave is almost like a big board for lighter people rather than a small board for heavy people. Because I have heard one of the big guys that I know has been on it, I was going, bloody hell, it's really loose. And it was almost like, wow, it's almost too loose. So I was like, well, you have to put some bigger fins in for you. For me, it's perfect because it's a big board, but it turns super well. So I can use a big board. So there's always going to be these crossovers or these different attributes boards have, because you, like I think you said in your video, you can't make a board that does everything perfect. It's just as much as a brand would love to say that, it just can't. It can't do full on down the line heavy meaty wave to a really fat shouldery wave to an onshore, you know, like that's why we've got all these boards, and that's why the title of this video is how many boards do you need? So we've talked about the boards you've got. In an ideal world, what do you think you would have in your quiver? Obviously in the ideal world you'd have one board, it does everything and it's brilliant, but that's not realistic. That just can't happen. We know that now. So with the conditions you've got in WA, which are pretty epic, you've got like Coronation Beach on your doorstep, which is a cross shore, you know, mellow, pretty waves, no big shore break, and then cool waves out the back. In the afternoons, you get a bit of down the line, and then you've got, you know, Nalu and up north and Exmouth and stuff and Margaret River, you know, just not too far away where you need a proper down the line board. Do you think you can have one board that does both of those, or are you having a dedicated board for down the line? Because you are in that luxury position. You haven't got any free ride gear, so you haven't got to worry about that. Or is that in your head about getting some other stuff?
You can get one board and to cover all those, but obviously if you can afford it or have the, I mean, you can buy secondhand boards. If you can afford to at least get a few boards, then you're just going to have, in my opinion, a better time having boards that are more dedicated to the job. Like that's.
So your main board, you're allowed to buy one new board. What's your new board? What's the main board you're like, as they call it, the daily driver? They call that in surfing, don't they? Their main board that does everything. It's like the one, if you had to go on a trip to WA, what board you taking? One board for you, 86 kilos, good level. Well,
I mean, just because I'm using this Goya gear, I have to go with the Goya board, but it would be the 88.
Yeah,
because you generally, if you want one board, you have to err on the side of caution and go for something that's at least a bit above your weight in liters. Otherwise, then you're just reserving yourself for really strong wind days, right? So there's obviously it's going to be hard with one board to cover everything. Just quickly as well, you mentioned something about how some boards are suited for like a lightweight person or that. With the I'll just say this about the Goya gear for anyone out there that's considering it, especially those the custom Quad 8 version, is that in my experience with that board, go with the literage that's just above your weight as the kind of either all-rounder or sort of semi-lighter wind board. So for in my example, it's an 80, I'm 86 kilos, and that 88, I can float and ride on it and still ride it in 25 knots. So if you're say 90, 92, 93 kilos, then you could get away with that 94. You know, for example, with that Flywave example, that 99, like turned really good. So with that simmer board, it's a different parameter. Another example is, and I said it in that unboxing video, my friend here just bought a secondhand duotone 107 grip, the 2024. So it's 107 liters, which is pretty big board for someone of my size, and he's only a few kilos heavier than me. That board turns probably as good, if not better, than my 88 liter Goya. It's 107 liters because the tail of it is pretty pulled in, and it's a dedicated wave board. So that's the other thing, you know, it's not just about the volume, but it's obviously the whole shape of the thing. But you know, that shape probably maybe not great if you're wanting a board that gets on the plane super early and all that, because it's a bit more dedicated, you know. So yeah, anyway, so it's super interesting. You know, it's obviously, unfortunately, you don't really know until you try all these different things.
No, but that makes sense. So you'd have that 88 as your, like, because if I was going to WA now, obviously been in the past, but I would take the 84 Flywave as my board, and I'm like 79 kilos at the moment. I could probably get away with a 90, but you know, you get those odd really windy days in Nalu and Coros where you don't want super, you know, even if the board turns well, you don't want that much volume, because obviously the smaller boards will turn better. So I think that kind of fits in. Interestingly, I was speaking to well, I wasn't speaking to him because he hasn't replied to me yet, but I was talking to Ola on the chat the other day, who's the timber shaper. And I said, what about having the concept that they used to have in kite surfing? I did say kite surfing for kites, which was a projected size. So like in windsurfing,
okay.
and people out there can shoot me down here, but I feel, I mean, I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but projected volume. So what it would take into consideration is the width at different points and the volume, and then come up with a more accurate volume. Because obviously, if you've got a board that's 80 liters, but it's mega wide, it's going to sail around like it's more liters than it is because of the width, because the width has a big thing. And then you'll have people now saying, yeah, well, just count the width then, forget the volume. But that's not how people work. I still think people would relate better to a kind of projected volume, which would take into account the width and the volume, and then spit out a number which would be in the volume kind of feel. So you would still have, that 92 that you had from Goya, let's say it was a bit wider than your average 92, it might come out as a 95 or a 98 projected volume. You'd still know it's a 92 or a 94.
Yeah, it's a 94, by the way.
Sorry, 94. Yeah. No, okay, say, the 94 Goya, let's say, again, I'm not saying this is, I'm just using an example. Let's say it's wider than the average 94, then that projected volume maybe could be like a 98, and then when you're looking to buy it, you go, it's a 94, but projected volume is 98, so it's going to sail a bit bigger than what I'm used to. And then equally, if you've got off the top of my head, like some of the taboos are quite narrow, and they might have a 90 liter, but it actually sails more like an 85 because it's super narrow, and that would be the projected volume.
I think it's a good idea, because it is hard to work it out from the website sometimes, isn't it? Like you look at all the different literage, you go, which one should I actually go for? It's an interesting concept. I think also the other thing I would like to know, and I thought maybe I should do a video on this because I'm a hack, but is also just more understanding the bottom shapes of a board, because that tells you a lot about what it's likely to do. Obviously the rocker line, the tail kick, the concaves, if you just have a basic understanding of what you're looking at there, it'll go a long way to understand what that board's likely to do, isn't it? I think obviously when we talk about windsurf boards, it's really, we talk about, I mean, the main thing is literage and the width and the length, but they're pretty gross attributes to a board's performance, aren't they? It's the bottom shape is arguably probably the most important.
The rocker line.
The
rail shape makes a huge difference.
Oh well, and the rail shape and all that, but yet it's never really talked about. I did notice on the flicker boards, I think they have a number where it's like, is it the flicker boards where they have a it's like rocker number 1 or rocker number 2 or something like that. So you can obviously then, I think that would be super valuable to know. Is there don't you think? Sort of a general, No,
but I think it makes sense, and there is an education side to it. And I mean, we're talking about boards now, but you can go into sales as well. You see someone buy some of these brand new sails, and then you see them rigged up, and you're like, well, you might have all the right stuff here, but there's more education needed on how they're meant to be rigged. Because also, we've seen over the years when we do our clinics, there are some older school guys who rig sails like they used to, which is fair enough. That no one said any different. But the newer sails are rigging totally different. Obviously, not every sail from every brand, things change and different mass curves and everything. But a lot of the newer sails that a lot of the top guys are using don't have much downhaul on. They really don't. I rigged Mark's sail the other day, this new carbon sail, and he's looking at me going, what are you doing? Take the downhaul off. I'm like, I thought there was nothing on it, and he's like, no, less. I was like, wow.
But is there a rigging marker on the sail? Or?
Well, there isn't on the simmer, to be fair, but they were more worried that if it's in the wrong place, because obviously you're relying on certain things, then that could do more damage than good. But I've actually said what maybe they should do is supply the stickers, and then basically there's a rigging video to show, and then you basically put it on when you're happy, because people rig it on different masts, and then if they rig it to that point but it's on the wrong mast, there's a whole other heap of problems. But yeah, I do like those indicators. I personally think it's good if they're in the right place, obviously.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, back to the actual original topic of this video. How many boards do you need? I know that you get a lot of boards thrown at you, but if you had to,
just don't ask me how many boards I've got in the shed. That's
oh my god. No, but if you had to, if I said to you, okay, Ben, you have to strip down your boards to just the number that you would want to keep you satisfied with all the different sailing, like how many boards would you have, you reckon?
Are we talking wave, or are we talking everything?
Well, no, yeah, just everything you do, I guess. Yeah. I mean, because you obviously do slalom and everything too.
Am I still living where I am with a garage quite close to the beach?
Yeah, exactly. Like, your current situation. I'm not talking about like, I'll have every size of waveboard. I'm saying like I'm just saying if you had to sort of like,
if I have to be realistic, like,
well,
I don't know how realistic this is going to sound. People will laugh at me. So I don't do much freestyle, but I like to have a freestyle board. There is a difference between a freestyle board and whatever, but I really don't do much. But it's in the garage for when I need it. I live on a place where I've got to tell you how I am as a person these days, because I obviously spend a lot of time talking about windsurfing, involved in windsurfing. And then people always say to me, how are you still so stoked about going windsurfing? And the real reason is why I'm so stoked is because I do genuinely mix it up. So I do a bit of speed stuff. Again, I'm not trying to say I'm the greatest speed sailor or anything. I do a bit of free ride. I do a bit of, freestyle. I go wave sailing. I just do a little bit of everything, plus a bit of surfing. And then by doing all these things and having all these toys, I really am able to stay pretty friggin' happy. We don't live next to a world-class wave spot, but we get waves, and it's almost like a challenge to sail the spot. It's not like Corals where it's kind of fun and you're like, "Well, this is fun." Tonal is like, it's like a Rubik's cube. It's like you've got to kind of unlock it a little bit and getting those moments. So there's a bit of that sort of stuff. But going back to your question, so I don't have to have a freestyle board. I probably could use a big wave board if I had to. So I don't have to have it, but I would like it. So I would just get maybe if I wasn't into it, I'd just get a secondhand freestyle board. You'd probably be able to pick them up super cheap, around like a 90 to 100 liters, something like that. Shove that in the garage. So that would be one thing. I don't need to have a speed board because we haven't got a speed strip here. But it's like when you have to use it and you go to it, it is pretty fun. Well, exactly. So it's kind of nice just to have it in the shed. And I've got the one from Luderitz, which I took there, and it's still ready to go.
That's pretty cool.
But again, I don't have to have it, but it's there. So then if we go down the flat water state, like I said, I can't tell you what boards I've got because I've got everything. But I just recently got 3 slalom boards, which is overkill. Which is like a 96, which is like low 60s wide, 106, which is high 60s, and then 116, which is 71.5 wide or something. Now, I don't need 3, but when you get friends come in and you get like this, it's nice to have a few boards to play around with.
And you're a good bloke.
Exactly, but I could maybe just get away with 106 if I had to as a one board. I'd miss out on a bit of light wind stuff. I wouldn't be so comfortable in the strong winds, but you could get away with 106. Or like I'd done for a lot of years, I had a 96 and 116. So I had the 116, which is a medium board for people who are not understanding what the big boys use. Like when they were in Tenerife and they were saying they're on their medium kit, that's pretty much what they're on. 116 litre, low 70s wide, as far as I'm aware. And then their big boards would be 85 wide. So mine's like low 70s, I can use that in as low a wind as I really want to go out riding. You know, I'm not going to use much bigger than a 7/8 anyway. So that would be my slalomy style stuff. I've also got some free race stuff, which is a bit more comfortable to sail than the full on slalom gear, you know. But that's another story.
So far we're up to about 18 boards.
I should show you a picture of my garage because it is pretty obscene. I've got to be honest. It is. You would cry. People would be like, "Oh my god, it's ridiculous." So let's just get that out of the way. There's a bit of free ride stuff in there, whatever. And then we get into the wave stuff, which is really, if I'm thinking about it fully, I'm like, okay, right, wave stuff. Here in Portugal, where I am, I don't need the 78. I'm about 78, 79 kilos. And the 84, I can do near everything on that 84. If we're talking about Cape Town, if we're talking about going up to Guincho where it's windier, Tarifa, the 78 comes back in 100%. It's my favorite board. But where I live right now, in the conditions we get, I don't particularly need it. But you know, Pozo, Tarifa, Guincho, Cape Town, all the really good spots in the world, that 78 has to be there. So that 78 kind of has to be there, but I wouldn't need it if I'm talking about quick time. The 84 is like the go-to all-rounder, pretty much. It's the more higher wind board I would use here, like down south in Portugal. But in most places in the world, if I'm going to take one board, now I've put on a bit of weight, I'd take the 84. It used to be I'd take the 78 everywhere, but now the 84 turns really well, so I'm taking the 84. And if we're trying to cut down on boards, here in Portugal, it's so difficult because I sound like an idiot now. But, you know, like if I'm trying to cut down on boards, I would just take the 99 as the big board here in Portugal. And so I'd probably have, if I'm doing two boards in Portugal, I do the 99 and the 84. Those are the two boards I would do.
But, well, this is the interesting thing too. Sorry to butt in, but that gap is quite large too, isn't it? I mean, some people might have a smaller gap, but that's interesting.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. The problem is the 90, which is what I've just got, is probably the go-to board for most of the medium wind sessions, you know, here. So like to say I'd go for the 99 and the 84, that's just if I can only have two boards, because if I go for the 90, which is probably like you going for the 88 in WA, that's your kind of go-to board, then it's like, well, which way do I go on the other side of that? If I go the 99, it's a bit close to the 90, and then the 84, and then you end up with three boards. So I've just ended up with four boards. But if I was having to pick two, 84 and the 99 would be my two, because the 99 gets me out when it's just crazy light. It floats. I can just stand on it. There can be a big set coming. I got no power, and I can still be confident enough that if I drop it, I'm straight back up. I can uphaul. I can get onto waves. So that gets me out in really some of the really bad stuff. And even when it gets windy, and I've been using it recently, man, the thing just rides really well. So I'm like, okay, the 99 has taken over from the 92. And then, like I said, here now, I changed down to a 90-litre board, then an 84, because I've got everything. But in the real world, if you were buying it, you probably wouldn't buy the 90 if you had the 99. You'd buy the 84, and then that would cover you. But there is a gap. Like, there is. And that's just something you'd have to deal with. But I don't have to deal with it, so I don't. I've got everything. I just load up the van.
For someone, if talking about wave boards, where do you think, how big should you go? What do you think is a limit that really you shouldn't really go beyond for your weight? So say what do you reckon?
It's interesting because the 99 has kind of blown me around a bit, because I used to think it was like I had a 90 as my big board when I was about 78 kilos. So that was 12 liters bigger than me. When I went bigger than 90, I felt like it was moving like a bit slower, and I didn't have as much fun, and I wasn't really getting more benefit from it, because the 90 which I used to have, which was a Quantum 90. It was quite wide. So that carried so much speed. It got going early, and I never saw the reason to do it. 12 liters was easy enough to float me. Never had a problem. But that has changed since, well, I've got older, but the 99 Flywave came out, and that's pretty much 20 liters bigger than me. You've got to look at widths of these boards as well. I think this is what goes back to what I was saying before. But I think comfortably, and again, it depends on your level. You know, you look in surfing, if you're getting older, they kind of calculate your paddle power has got less and they give you more volume. And I think you can do that a little bit with windsurfing with the level you're at. So, you know, when I was talking about going 12 liters more, my level was in the World Cup. You know, I was top 15, top 10 in that World Cup events. So I was at a pretty bloody high level. So it's like, look at surfing. The surfers' big boards are still tiny. But when you get down to my level of surfing, which is pretty amateur, my literage is huge differences, and it's getting longer now because I want ease of use. I want to be able to get into it. So if I look at Justin, who I sail with here a lot, who is a good wave sailor, he's kind of later 50s, like 57, and he uses a 99, but he's in the low kind of 70s. So he's got like nearly 25, 30. He's got 105 liter Quantum, which he uses up north. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of the volumes you can do. And again, it depends what you're trying to get out of the board. If you're pushing super hard on the bottom turn, you're trying to move it around and you want to have that freedom that you used to having, you know, you're not going to be able to do that maybe on the massive boards. But what I found is, I think I might have said this before, but I was in Cape Town and Jeff Houtman was on, a friend from back home, Ross Niger. He was on the clinic and he had this big custom board, which was, I think it was 115 liters. And it was super light wind at Sunset Beach, Cape Town. And I was like, you know, no one was going out because it was so light. And I was like, go on then. And everyone was going, go on, have a go on this board. You'll be flying around. And it didn't work like that. I feel like there is definitely a maximum size. And what I found is with the smaller board, let's say, for me, it's the 99 Flywave as my big board, which is still big, but before then it was lower than that. I found with the smaller board, I could get on the wave, move it and generate speed, which is what you see with some of the top surfers. They've got small boards, but they're so fast. They're up quick and they're moving and moving and they can work the board. And what I found is when I got on this big board, this 115 or 118 or whatever it was, I couldn't do that. So even though it had more volume and it should have been doing everything better,
you can't pump it. I
couldn't pump it. I couldn't move it. So I was really like static, which made I was going slower, which meant I couldn't get the rail. I couldn't move it. So weirdly, it wasn't as good as my smaller board. So to answer your question, I think with the newer boards, if you're getting the right ones, you can go within 20 to 25 liters quite happily. Happily, I think. Like before, that would have been crazy. Maybe even 30. You know, if with the right board.
Exactly, the caveat there, because as we just discussed before, I didn't find that with the Goya boards. I found that didn't quite work that way. But I definitely with the simmer boards, like I said, I tried that 99. And that, look, I know I've said it a few times, but that board's actually really good.
Again, let's not turn this into an advert. We're just talking about this because this is our experience with it. And I'm sure, like you said about the duotone board, there are other brands out there with boards that do it, but it is definitely pays to try and find people that you can have a go on a certain board and try it out, because they do all react differently. Don't think because it's got a tri-fin, they all act like tri-fins. Don't think it's got a quad, they all act like quads. Don't think because it's 105, it'll act like the other 105s. They are differences, some subtle, some much bigger differences. So I think it's worth letting into it. And look at whips. Whips is a big deal.
What about custom boards with wave boards? What do you think? I mean, what do you thoughts?
I'll be honest, as a professional windsurfer, put that in loose terms, I've stayed away from a lot of custom boards because it's a slippery slope to go down. And I have heard horror stories And I think if you're not good enough to tell what you're riding, it can be worse, because you've paid all this money for a custom board. You kind of want to like it. And I'm not being rude. Maybe you're not good enough to say how good it is. Whereas I think the production boards, a lot of them, and, and not to say, custom boards can be amazing, but I know lots of people who have ordered custom boards and they haven't come out quite like they wanted. And you have to be good enough to know what's going wrong with it and what's not working. And I think if you're not fully into it, it can go a bit wrong. And I think the production boards these days have come such a long way. Like, I think they're amazing right now. Most of them are custom boards, like some of the production boards. They're built like custom boards, and there's a lot of effort gone in. So unless you're sailing, let's say, a really specific spot, like Keeper is a classic example. For whatever reason, you look at that wave on the video, it looks like any other wave to me. It looks like a nice wave, but you think, oh, it's just a wave. It's not much different. But I know from sailing boards at Keeper, some boards work everywhere I've been in the world, and Keeper, they don't seem to work. I don't know why. It's just something about the way the wave works. And that can be true with other spots around the world. It's not, and there's a lot of people who have had custom boards from Maui, Keeper, from well-known professionals, and took them home, and they're dogs. They just don't work, back at their home spot. So you do have to be careful, I would say, with that. And that's not to scare anybody to, oh my God, I've got this, it doesn't work. But you've got to be realistic when you buy something. Just because it's a custom doesn't mean it's better. It doesn't necessarily. It's a custom. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's got to be fit for you. And most custom builders can do that. But it's also got to be fit for how you sail and what conditions you sail in. Just because it's a custom doesn't mean it's essentially straight away better. There are, like I said, great. If you're an all-round wave sailor, you're sailing in normal locations. Those production boards started off as custom boards, and then they got made into production boards. That's how most of it happens. Mark Paré is obviously ripping on some of the production boards, but at the moment he's testing a lot of other boards and trying to figure out different routes to go, because that's how the new production boards get made. You have to experiment with certain rockers. You have to incorporate two from a different one. You're trying to figure out what works. And then sometimes you find that magic one that is more all round, and they're usually the board that makes into the production board. So you have to remember that.
Sorry, when you just said Mark Pro rips around on a production board, do you mean custom board?
No. Like I said, if you see him on the production board, absolutely rips it up. But at the moment, he's got a mixture of a lot of other boards because he's trialing some new concepts, which will be probably production boards in a few years, because it obviously takes time to trickle down into that production range. So I was here the other day and I tried one of Ola's boards, which was originally made for Ola, and then Mark tried it, someone else tried it. Oh, this is quite exciting. And then he had some made, and then he's been trying it. I just tried it, and it's like you never just put a board into production. It has to go past all the little tests to make sure it's an all-round board. There's no point in having a production board that only works specifically for one tiny thing for one certain rider. You want it to be a very all-round accommodating shape, let's say.
Yeah, unless you want 10 boards in the quiver. What about Miguel here? So what exactly are custom boards? Are they boards done for specific people?
Well, exactly.
Well,
you can call a few different things. It could be a construction thing where you have a templated board. I guess Flickr would be an example of that. They're almost like a production shape on a thing that you can buy, and then you'd get a certain construction, which would be custom. But they're called usually semi-customs. I guess the new Duotone factory, watching that video the other day, they're production boards, but they're made in how a custom would be made. So do you call that a custom? For me, a custom is you go to a shaper, you tell him what you want, and he designs it for you. And the tricky bit with that is, again, I'm not dogging on customs, because obviously some amazing boards come out. But you've got to remember, it's not, maybe it is now a more perfect science, but it definitely wasn't back in the day a little bit. Whereas a production board, you can literally do what you're doing, is try it, and then it's working. You're like, okay, well, you can't really try a custom board. You having to have it designed for you. And then you go, okay, I hope I like it. And I know a lot of riders in the past who have had 4 boards made the same, and they don't come out exactly the same, and they're all made to be on the similar one. And again, I don't want to confuse people, but when you're going custom, it's not as easy to do it as some people think. And obviously you can end up with some amazing boards. But I think if you're not sailing a really specific spot, why do you need one? Like, that would be my question. Like, again, it could be for construction. It could be to support your local shape. And there are lots of reasons for doing it. And I'm not saying that. But I think where the production boards are right now, it's pretty easy to see the ones with good reputations and good stuff. And you don't have that, oh, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? But on the other side of that, that is quite cool to have a custom board designed for you. And you're like, oh, is it going to be good? But it's a lot of money if you don't like it. And then who do you sell it to? You go, okay, like you're going now. Oh, let's say you decide that the Nitro 2 is too close to your Goya custom product, whatever the name of it is, custom 8.
Custom Quad 8. Yeah. Custom
Quad 8. So let's say it's too close to that. And you decide to get rid of it. Someone can read the test on it, listen to your blurb on it and go, yeah, I'll have that. Whereas if it's a custom board designed for you, it's like Chapul Van Bellen, Geraldton Beach, Jesus loves you, or whatever they used to say on the boards. And then you go, and you go, I used it, I don't like it. And they're like, why don't you like it? What's it designed for? And then it's like, oh, it's the same deal. You can try it, and if you like it, then you can buy it off them. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of work gone into production board development and design over the years. And I think they're at a very good place, most of the brands now, that they are all round good working shapes. Like if you bought a custom board as an all round board, they'd probably give you the production base. Like there's no reason for them to give you anything else. The difference comes if you want a Jaws board, or you want a Who Keeper board, or you want a, I don't know, some random spot with a sucky bowl and it needs to be, critical. Or you maybe want something really small. That could be another reason, or something really big. That could also be a reason for getting a custom board, Here
we go. You don't get much better backup than this. Baptiste Clorec, winner at Fiji. Completely agree with you, Ben. Even if you can do 20 customs per year, it's very hard to find a really good one.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone knows, it'd be him.
But again, these guys are looking for the magic. When you listen to some of the surfers, which is a good reference because they make lots of videos about this sort of stuff, but they're looking for the magic board. And if you listen to, I think it was Fanning or Joel Parkinson over the years, or Kelly, they always say, oh, that year I had that magic board. And it is like a magic board where everything lines up. And these guys can get boards made exactly the same, or theoretically exactly the same. But essentially, they're never exactly the same because there's different moisture, there's different flex, there's different whatever. And these guys are like at the top of the top. So they are finding all these like really small details. And obviously when you change spots, when you change sail, let's say your sail is pushing down more, or your sail is lifting up, your new sail does something different, it will affect the board. And I don't want to confuse everyone, but if you're really getting into details on custom boards and locations, it is a full mind flip, which I am not there for that. Like, I want to enjoy my sailing, and I'd made a conscious decision a long time ago not to go down the custom route. I just went, okay, I'll get my boards and I will just learn how they sail within reason. If I get a dog, if one of the lines I don't like, I'm not going to carry on using it. I'm going to work out. But within reason, I think by changing fins, foot strap positions, mast bases, the sail, how it rigs and stuff, you can change a lot to do with the board. Fins is a main one. You can really liven a board up, slow it down, do a lot of stuff as long as the base is good. And I think that's a much safer place to start with before you start getting into, trying to get yourself a crazy custom.
Baptiste is also mentioning the construction of the board. Obviously, that's, there's obviously a lot of options there too, isn't there?
Oh, it's interesting. You got that stone behind you. That's polyester because Stoney's like allergic to epoxy. So he's always made his boards like that. And that has a definite different feel to the way the board feels on the water. It feels softer, it feels smoother. You know, it's a little bit heavier, but these characteristics totally change everything. If you make that board in epoxy, the board will feel different. You know,
well, it's essentially a an ultra coat, not the current one. It's the one before. Is that shape?
Okay.
Yeah. But no, you're right. Yeah, I have to say the like. Also, I just want to caveat what you said about the custom shapers. There's certain things where it does make sense. Like in Geraldton, because Coronation is such a specific spot. You know, it that hardly changes. When you go there in summer, it's always the same wind direction. It's the it's you know what I mean, it's very consistent. Then you can like Stoney sails there every day, so he knows exactly what that spot's like, and therefore can go, well, if you want a board for Coros, like there it is, plug and play, you know, for that spot. So because of that, a lot of locals do.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, you know, just to also,
No, but if I go back to it, if now you say that, I mean, again, I'm going to reference to surfing because I'm subscribed to Stab Mag for €80 a year, so I have to get my money's worth. But when they were doing their surfing thing, you know, when Fanning goes to wherever it is, they usually get boards from the local shaper. You know, because they're looking for those real individual details, and they might be sponsored by someone else, but they're still, you know, he gets all his boards from DH or whatever, but he's getting these other boards from different places because he knows they have got a bit of an advantage of the way the wave works. So, you know, but this is talking at a real level, which I would say, not being disrespectful to people, but I don't think the level for most of us is there to really gain the benefits within reason, obviously, you know. But like I said, 100% you can support your local shaper, and if you've been on their boards, that's what I would say first. But just blindly ordering one, I don't know. It's never so easy, because especially if you're used to a certain board. Let's say you've always had starboards, or you've always had whatever, any Mistral, whatever, you know, any board over the past. So that's all you've ever used, the old Mistrals, and you suddenly get on this new custom from someone. You might not like the way it feels, just because that board shaper might feel a certain way. So I would always say, like, and that's the good thing with the production board. Usually you can try one before you have to buy it. Not always, but if I always say this, if you can have a possibility of trying something before you buy it, that is the ultimate, because then you will at least know if you like in the feel of it. Maybe, you know, the pads make a difference. Some people like softer pads, some people like harder pads, some people the shape in the pads. It sounds daft, but all these things make a difference. And until you know what you want, that's what I would say. When you know what you want, then you can go to maybe a shaper if you really feel the need. But I'd be just questioning what you're trying to get from it. You know, if it's price, okay, fair enough. If it's construction, fair enough. If it's design, you've got to be on it.
Yeah. I guess that's where the responsibility comes back to the shaper too, isn't it? To have the ability to be able to communicate well with the customer, to really get, because, you know, the shaper will kind of know probably more than the customer about the board and what it can and cannot do, and they're going to have to communicate that to the person and really get a feel. So unless that communication is very clear, and, you know, then you could run into problems. You know, the other thing about
No, I was just going to say, I think it's easier for a shaper who has a local spot and it's just a specific spot. That makes a lot of sense. You know, like I said, Hookkeeper is an example. If you're going to get a board for Hookkeeper, it's well documented that a lot of pros over the years, not so much as much now, but definitely back in the early 2000s, that type of stuff. The Quattro customs resprayed up for other brands was common. Like nearly most of the pro riders had a Quattro board, or at least tried a few, because that was the board to have for that specific spot. Again, over the years, that's changed a little bit, but definitely in the early 2000s, it was commonplace. You'd see, you know, Pollock on a JP 69. And I was always like, man, that guy's always on a 69. But what I realized as I got older and more educated in the industry, it's like the 69 graphics are the smallest graphics. So they go on any board. So if he has a very narrow board, which might be 80 liters, you could actually stick the 69 graphics on it. So all of his boards were 69 liters because that was their small board graphic, which always threw me as a younger person. I was like, what?
I've got a question for you, Benny. What's your thoughts on pros using custom boards with production graphics on it? Any
Say
thoughts?
again.
So a pro using a custom board,
yeah,
but it looks like a production board because any thoughts on that?
It's a tricky one because there are a lot of riders that have basically, and it sounds a bit like, oh yeah, here we go, but it's basically the production board, but it's got a slight tweak. So you're like, you know, essentially is that board, but maybe they're trying stuff again for the next year's production. Like, oh, do we tweak that a little bit? And at some point you have to try it. Now, gone are the days where there's so much money in the industry, they're just making boards left, right, and center. So now it is very much, you know, you've got to get the economy right and you've got to make it work. So now it's kind of trying to fit in, okay, how can we improve this board? Okay, maybe we need a little tweak to that, but it kind of has to go somewhere, you know, and you want to put it to use. So there can be a bit of that. The difficulty is, I know what you're saying, it is difficult because there are definitely, I'm trying to think of a good example, you know, like something like Cloud Break, where I don't think Goya would mind me saying this. I don't think Francisco, I mean, you know, Brasilio would be using a production board there. I don't think Marc Barret would be using a production board there. I don't think Baptiste Claret would be using a production board there. I don't think anyone minds me saying that because Cloud Break, you can't make a production board for Cloud Break, I don't think. You know, maybe there was a few guys, girls or guys on production boards, but to ride that place well, you would have to be on a custom board. It's just ridiculous. You know, there's hardly any people riding that place on a production board because of the rockers and all that stuff. So then you're like, well, what do? We still want to promote the brand. We still want to get the nice pictures. We still want to get all this type of stuff. You know, and the graphic is for Goya. It's still a Goya board made by the Goya shaper, or, you know, Keith or whoever, Francisco, or whoever's shaping the boards or whoever's doing the other boards. So it's like, what do you do? Like, for all those amazing pictures and amazing stuff, do you just do it white? Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I don't have a problem with it unless the brand is specifically saying, you know, unless there's some sort of cover up. Unless, like, they would reply to me now, oh, no, that's not true. We're all using production boards and everything's great. And you're like, well, yeah, maybe in Silt and places like this and Pozo, maybe, you know, but in terms of Cloud Break or Hookkeeper, it's not very common, you know, for the top guys at the top of their trade, because they've all got little tiny things that they need a little bit different.
Just on that Fiji, I could be wrong, and if Antoine Martin, you're listening, I think he was actually using a production starboard. Is it ultra, whatever they call it? You know, they have a pretty extreme wave board. So I think he may. Yeah,
maybe. And I would also have to guess, if that's true, they probably didn't sell many of those boards because the market
it's extreme board
must be
the tail on it was so tucked in. It was so tucked in. It was pretty radical. But
maybe, like I said, I can't speak.
No, it's all good. Everybody else, I think, had custom boards.
Oh, hello. Before you go any, Baptiste, I was using the production board.
He was.
Well, there you go. So he doesn't need much rocket. Maybe, there we go.
No, the RRD. Yeah. Actually, that's true. Actually, now that he says it, I think the Japanese boys were using.
So maybe Cloud Break was a bad example because it's more like you're gunning. So you can, like, I've sailed this couple of waves in Ireland, which were really slabby, and I was actually on a free wave, and it was fine because it's such a fast rocker. You're just gunning down, doing big airs, and you're not having to turn. So okay, that I take it back, makes sense what Baptiste is saying there. I was using production board in Fiji because the wave is super fast, so you don't really need to something that turns a lot like with Hookkeeper. So essentially he's saying there he uses a custom in Hookkeeper but not in Cloud Break. So maybe just Cloud Break was a bad example.
No, but look, a lot of people did have custom boards there too. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixture, I guess. But the reason I ask about the custom boards dressed up as productions is I personally want to know when I'm watching an Insta clip or a YouTube video, when like I want to know exactly what it is, the board that someone is riding. And the issue I have is if I see a pro sailor doing a sick turn and they're, you know, doing certain moves and they're on a board that looks like a production, I'm like, wow, are they actually doing that on the production board, or is that a custom board? Because if they're doing that on the production board, that board is going to be completely fine for me. You know, like that's I kind of look. I doubt it's going to change anytime soon, but I personally would love to know when someone's actually using the board that I can buy off the shelf. Like then yeah, just because you know what I'm saying. And the other thing too is like I want to know. If you get the best people on the production gear, then you get to see what the limit of the board actually is. Yeah. Because like Keeper's a classic example. All the pros there are using customs. I mean, all the guys on the Goya gear, they're all using the Quattro customs because the boards are more rocket and the whole thing. So you see those turns, you go, oh yeah, they're sick. But I'm like, yeah, but what would they, if they got the production board, how much lesser of a turn, or you know what I mean, like how much of a compromise would it actually be? I'd love to know that.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but that's just me. Maybe there's other people out there that think.
No, but I think when you are using, I'm the same, to be honest, because I don't have any customs. Every so often, you know, I trial some stuff that might be coming out in the next year or so. You know, because the problem is, when does that stuff get tested? And if you like it, you know, let's say, and you think, oh, this could be the next production board, and you start using it, you don't want to tell the market that this new production, you know, because it confuses everyone. Everyone's like, well, when can we get this? It might not be on the market for another 2 years, you know, because it takes time to decide that. And you're like, you know, and then it does get tricky. You know, like say you've got shops, they've got all great production boards. Let's say the new production board is good, but the next one could be doing something different. Maybe they're going down a different route. It's like, do you then tell the whole market that you're using something else? And I know what you mean, because it's like, I did hear someone say that it's kind of false advertising. It's like saying, well,
I mean, well, imagine you're watching a car video and you're thinking about buying I don't know, what's a common car, a VW Polo or something. But the guy's drifting around the corner at 250 kilometers an hour. But then you find out later that that's not a production because they stuck a V8 in it. And like, you know what I mean? Like you sort of go, well, yeah, but I want to know what the car can actually do, you know, like versus some hotted up thing, you know, like, so yeah, it's look, whatever. It's not a massive deal or anything, but again,
it would be interesting.
I would love to know. Yeah,
it would be interesting on the PWA. Like if genuinely, like let's say I was still competing, I would quite happily put a stamp on my thing that I'm using production boards, like because I don't have any custom boards. So it'd be like, yeah, I'm stamped production board only. So you would know if you saw me sailing. I don't know if it would help. But you go, okay, he's on production board. But you know, like it would be interesting because then if you guaranteed that you would only use production boards, then you could have this production board almost prize, you know, like you know.
Yeah, but also like if you beat someone that's on a custom board and you're using the production board, how good does that look for that production board too? It's like, wow, that thing's really good. Like, you know, it elevates it even further.
You've also got to take into consideration though, it's like when I see all these surfboards, it's always interesting to me. So again, I know I keep going on about surfing, but they've made some interesting videos which are good crossovers. So there's this famous video series, which is why I pay this Stab Mag 80 euros a year. But it's like called Stab in the Dark, which is like they get, let's say 10 boards, they all paint them white. I talked about doing this with windsurfing, it's just not possible, but paint them all white, put numbers on them, and then they get a famous surfer to come and basically pick his favorite board, like a blind testing. So that sounds amazing. And it is really interesting to watch. Some of them can even tell what they are with just feeling them. Like Fanning was amazing. He just goes through them, goes, yeah, chili, yeah, DH, yeah. Because he just knows everything.
That's amazing.
So that's quite crazy to me because when they're white, they look different. And
surfboards are so many.
Yeah,
and
but
windsurfers.
you find out that they get on them. They go, no, shit, not that way. No, that's a bin, bog, well, you know, oh, this one's amazing, this one's amazing. And then at the end of it, they have a winner. And this winning board usually does really well selling because it's obviously a massive marketing thing. But you've got to remember, this is Mick Fanning, or this is, you know, whoever the top guys are, you Kelly Slater or whoever's using them. And you're like, are you really looking for that top guy's board that he likes? I don't know. So then to put another spin on this, Mark Paré was just here and he's got this surfboard, what's the bloody thing called? Aussie one, Sharp Eye. So there's an influencer guy, surfer, who's a good surfer, but he's nowhere near the World Cup, you know, nowhere near the Fanning and these guys. And he did his own little surfboard test, and he had this Sharp Eye as this best winning board. Paré's this board, he is genuinely going, wow, this is making me better. I am absolutely, no word of a lie, is like, profit, buy one. This is amazing. You don't have to put as much effort in. I'm turning well. And I have a feeling that if this got into the big test, maybe it has done now because I haven't followed the latest ones, you know, would it do as well as some of these other boards that they've designed? You know, who are you comparing yourself to? Is it stupid for us, and I'm including me in this, to compare myself to the top guys? Maybe I've been on the world tour, I've been up there with the boys, so maybe I could, you know, go, okay, yeah, maybe I ride like him. But then at what level do we then not look at these guys? And what level do we use them for promotion?
Yeah, well, what, you want me to answer it, or you just sort of putting it out?
Like what level? What level is it? What level do we go? You know, I'm watching Brasilio, and he obviously is ripping on the gear. You know, I think, but the boards he uses and how he rides those boards, Paré, all the top guys right now, you know, all of them, Costa, whoever, you know, like, are we comparing ourselves to them? I include myself in that because I often think it. I'm like, ooh, is that a good thing? Maybe it is. Maybe it's fine. Maybe in windsurfing, it's not such a bigger difference. Sales, I definitely think there is less of a difference. But what a top guy wants out of his sales is probably more aggressive and more than some of the guys who just get out at the weekend, let's say. But again, I like to look at these guys, and I do exactly what you do. You're like looking at him doing a turn, you think, oh, that board looks good. And then you're like, now you know a little bit of the insight. You're like, well, is that a production board? But it's still the same shaper now. That never used to be the case. I always had a problem with riders on a brand not using the same shaper. That's more of a problem I had. What I want to see is Mark Paré on a board shaped by Ola. What I want to see is Brasilio on a board shaped by Keith, or whoever shaped his boards. Well, you know, because then you know at least that's in the same
consistency.
mold. So like if you have a guy that's on a brand, let's say back in the day, Policow riding a keeper on a keep to ball board, you know, that's a little bit different. That doesn't happen now, I don't think, as much. I don't think it maybe doesn't happen at all. A lot of things have changed, but back in the day, 20 odd years ago, that was definitely a thing.
Yeah. I mean, look, I just personally like knowing exactly what someone's on. So I can sort of see what the limits are. Like Brasilio put a video on his Insta story the other day where he's riding a Nitro 2 99. He wrote that on the story, and then, you know, and he's doing doubles. He does some, you know, some turns or whatever on this very crappy onshore day. But you're sort of looking and going, well, that's a production board, and that's what he's doing on it. So it's just, it's cool to know.
I think I think it's totally good. I think you got a great point.
Point. Well, look, it's one other thing actually before I forget. We talk, obviously this whole video is about how many boards do you need. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Jaeger, who I film a bit, or I have in the last year or so, did you know that he pretty much, I mean, I don't know how many boards he's got. He's got a few in his garage, but he basically rides this one board like all the time. There's this one board that he has, which is his magic board, and he rides the same board now. I think he's in his 7th or 8th year on this one board. So basically every video or Insta clip that you see of me filming him is essentially using the same board over and over, and it's about 7 years old or 8 years old. Like, it's the same board, I believe, that he won the Red Bull comp on, is the same video that I'll film him next week at Coronation on. Like, it's the same board.
Yeah.
That's quite incredible, isn't it?
I could see that.
Isn't it?
Like, if you listen to these guys surfing when they talk about the magic board, there is just some boards that just seem to just fit everything. You get boards that are close, but when you're at that high level, you know when it feels right and everything just feels perfect. And you'd think in this day and age, you could recreate that exact board, but it's very difficult when you're talking of the feel that these top guys have got. When we go down the scale a bit in terms of level, the feel is not there. Like, it's like, look at me at golf, you know, the feel I have from hitting a ball with the club compared to the top guys that are hitting a ball, they will feel every little moment and whatever. I'll just be happy if I sweep the thing in the middle and it goes relatively straight. You know, it's like, yeah, whatever, that'll do. Whereas they're feeling every little bit of movement, every bit of weight transfer. And I think that's kind of similar in these aspects. Which goes back to what I was saying. For me, I just like to have a production board, because then you could just get on with enjoying your session and don't get too bogged down with, I need this, you know, everything absolutely correct. I think when you're at a certain level, you need to do that, because you don't want a dog of a board. You don't want to be struggling. But once you find a good brand or a good model of board that suits you, just get used to it, enjoy it, brilliant. And then then you have the little upgrades every now and again where you go, oh, well, fancy, something comes out, catches your eye, and then you sample in, and then maybe you have to dial in a little bit. And sometimes I think you can tell if you like a board straight from the off. You're like, no, don't like it. It don't feel me. And you can work your way in, you can get it better. But some boards, I know for me, when the first Flywave came out, it was like I can still remember the session. We had it in Gran Canaria. There was a south swell. We were at the flat water spot, which had now, with the south swell, had this down the line wave. And I did the first bottom turn and top turn. And I was like, oh my God, 78. And I remember going to Mark, this is the board, this one. And I tried like quite a few before that I was like, I'm just straight away, I'm like, it's all right, it's all right. And then when you get on a good one, you just go, bam. It just like this fits me.
Works.
This fits me, just fits me absolutely perfect. And I think you'll find that the more boards you try, the more equipment you try, you will feel something that you can always get used to something, but some things will just fit you better straight from the off. And then when you dial into them, that's when the proper magic happens. But you can definitely change a board with fins and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting discussion, but I think for me personally, probably 3 or 4 boards is the sweet spot for what I need at the moment. So we'll see if that changes much. There's also just a space thing as well, isn't it? How much can you fit into your garage or this place you live in as well?
My garage is now
your garage is massive. I know,
that's the problem. It is a problem. I think this should be the name of the video. If you've got the space, you will fill it. And I will do. Maybe I should do a garage tour, because I think it will scare a few people.
That'd be cool. Do you ever sell? What happened? Like, do you just collect them, or do you sell them?
I rarely because we're doing this surf ranch and stuff, and I don't know, like, I've got friends coming over and not everyone wants to travel with gear. I was thinking it might be nice to have a bit of kit at the house, and now it's got a bit out of hand. So it's like I'm like hoarding gear right now. And then you you just have stuff, and you think, the secondhand market in Portugal is not amazing anyway. So you're like, even if I keep it for another 5 years, I'm going to lose nothing. Like, it's like the initial price goes down like a massive chunk, and then it literally stops. Like, it doesn't move. It moves a couple of hundred euros, so you're like, it's already lost that value to whatever level that is. So then you're like, well, I've got the space. It's fun to have all this stuff. So I'm just hoarding. I'm just a hoarder. I'm like those guys that you see, you know, those where they're covered in books and digging their way through the garage. That's me.
Yeah. The other thing too is, you know, we're talking about, you and I are lucky because we get new boards, but you know, if we're talking about trying boards or having a few extra boards, obviously secondhand, you know, you can go out there and have a look what's available in your market, and you can obviously save quite a lot of money doing it that way, of course. You know, I normally actually, you know, up until now, honestly, I've actually bought quite a lot of secondhand boards, but just because of this deal with Goya, then I don't. But before that, I was always trawling for a secondhand board. You know,
it's fun though, isn't it? I kind of almost miss that side of it, because I mean, when you see people, they're like addicted to secondhand shops and clothes. Like some people.
That's good, isn't it?
But some people, my sister,
you find gems like this.
No, you find gems, exactly, and there's a lot of satisfaction in like trawling through stuff and finding like these gems. And I think now in windsurfing, we're probably at this amazing point in time where there must be some absolute bargains out there and gems that, you know, like if you have a board from 10 years ago now, that's only 2015. There's some decent boards. That's 10 years. So there's a hell of a lot of boards, because people, obviously windsurfers like buying new boards. So then there has to be some boards coming out the other way. So if you're not like needing the new and latest and greatest, or, you know, you haven't got the money, I don't think that should put you off having a load of gear. Like the room might have you putting off, but if you've got the space, you can go out with relatively little money now. You can get slalom boards, you can get bloody freestyle boards, wave boards, you could buy a whole quiver for relatively cheap in probably pretty good nick. Like, you got to be careful. Obviously, there's some shitters out there, but with the right due diligence, I did think about making a video where I would go online and try and pick out some gems. I've seen them do it in golf, because I follow a few golf channels, and it's actually it's quite satisfying watching, you know, these guys go around these thrift shops and try and find out this stuff. It's a bit more difficult with windsurfing gear because it's all over the country, but I can imagine there'll be some proper gems out there.
Adrian says here, that's why I never sell boards anymore. Not worth it. At the point where you can buy a board, keep the fins and sell the board and come out a winner.
Well, it's
keep the fins and sell the board. No, okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know, Benny, what do you think? If there's anything more to add to this discussion?
Well, what was the original question? How many boards do you need? I think you need 2 wave boards. I'm going to cut it down to the minimal. I think you need 2 wave boards, and I feel like you should have a slalom board, like a little bit of a free racer, some sort of free racer. Again, all depends where you live, but I think there's definitely something in that to be flying around. But I think in talking wave boards, minimum you need 2. Unless you live in a very consistent place. Like if I lived in WA, I could probably get away with an 84 as my one board. Like,
yeah, you could.
Cape Town's the same. I could get away with one board if I had to. Ideally, though, 2 boards. And then if you're very luxurious and you want all the bits, 3 boards is the go. Maybe 4.
Yeah. The other thing is what I found interesting over the years is that the board sizes have kind of shifted up, because I remember when like wave boards in the past, they seem to be quite small in literage, and now everything's shifted a bit more to the other way. You notice that? Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think that's had to, for all of us, well, certainly for me, it's just taken some mental shift in understanding that and going a slightly bigger, whereas before, like I remember my first wave board that I bought was a Kinetic 70-liter board when I was living in Perth back in 2000. At the time, I weighed about 80 kilos and it was 70 liters. I don't even know. I wouldn't. There's no way I would buy a 70-liter board now. I mean, well, you know, let's say a 10-liter board that was less than my weight for a wave board. But for somehow it worked back then. But now it's shifted the other way, and obviously with these designs, you can get away with a bigger leader board and still turn the thing really quite well, which it's good, isn't it? Because it just opens up so much.
It's a game changer. It's a game changer. Like, I think everything's come on massively. Like I say, when I first got into wave sailing, I had a 69 JP, 70 litre. You know, it was very rare that I would have a board bigger than me in litres, like very rare. But now you just get so many more days and the boards are fun. Like, it's not like gone are the days where the big boards don't really move. There's some really agile boards out there for the size. Makes a huge difference.
So no, it's really good. And look, again, just reiterating what I said on the video, but you just said something that reminded me. But I really feel like we're in a really golden age of windsurfing right now. Like, you know, there's periods of time where you kind of look back at it and go, oh, that was a good period of time. I honestly feel, I mean, personal circumstances aside, because we're all have different things going on in our lives, but if you take that out of it and purely look at the windsurfing, you think we've got the best gear we've ever had. It's unlikely to change radically much, because, you know, obviously there'll be tweaks here and there, but we've hit a bit of a sweet spot, and we can sail without generally thousands of people around, depending on where you are. And the other thing I want to say, and this is actually to everybody listening right now, but I honestly believe I've been windsurfing since, well, I mean, the very first time I got on a windsurfer, I was probably 8 years old, but I think I started to learn when I was about 12. But in the whole time I've been windsurfing, I'm now 48, so, you know, over 30 years, 35 years, this period of time with the people that are in the sport, including everyone that joins us on this podcast, including you, Ben, and all the people I've met, it's the best period of time I've found for just the community feel and the people. Like it's wherever you go now. I mean, sure, every now and then you might meet a knobhead here and there, because that's humanity. But
there's
generally,
less of them.
Yeah. Like, I find that, I don't know, maybe someone else can chime in here and tell me what they think. But when you go to your local beach windsurfing, people are pretty cool these days with windsurfing, aren't they?
That could be the title for the next podcast. Less knobheads in the sport.
No, but I just meant, like, it's like people are just it's very, there's not too much ego in it. You know, you can just have a chat and it's all pretty cool. And like, you know, I don't know. I have to say, you know, because it's very, you can sort of miss what's going on. And then next thing you know, in 20 years time or 10 years time, we'll be looking back. You remember in 2025, that was a good era, wasn't it, Ben? You remember, you know what I mean? Like, we'll be talking like that, I think. Yeah, and honestly, I think right now, I really feel that it's just a really great time right now. I think it's important to mention, because, you know, like, life goes by and then you just look back and go, that were the good old days. But I actually feel like now is a great time for windsurfing. Like today I went for a windsurf down at Corro's, and it was quite special. Like, you go down there, it's a world-class spot. Like, it's honestly one in for what it is, like a skate park. It's one of the best windsurfing places in the world. Today was the first windsurf sea breeze. And I went down with Anton. It's just me and Anton on the water, just sharing waves. And I'm like, it just doesn't get much better than this. Like, not just the spot, but it's just like, it's just like, I'm not just talking about it just because of the spot, because today honestly wasn't even that good for Corals. It was pretty crap wind and junky waves. But the fact that we could just be out there with two of us and not 1,000 people, because in Australia you can go to, if it was a popular surf spot, there are hundreds of people on it sometimes. Like, literally, you know what I mean?
No, but I would agree, totally agree. The only thing is, you live like here in Portugal, if I had my way, we'd have a few more people. Just a few more. But I think that's that is not about the people. That's about the spots are hard to sail. So then, you know, if we had Corros here, it would be packed. It would be absolutely packed. So I think it really depends on it. But I totally agree with you. I don't think in kit, like gear-wise, this is the best it's ever been. Like 100%. And I'm not just talking about people go, oh yeah, but you just want to sell new gear or whatever this is. But actually, you can buy secondhand gear, which is amazing now. and you can get the spot to yourself. And I've said this a lot of times. Everyone's like, we need to get more people into windsurfing. You're like, yes, but why do you want to do that? If it's to make more money as a pro, okay. If it's to fund you having a shop, okay. But if you're talking from a user experience and you go to a good wave spot in Australia, you don't want any more people. You really don't. You want, what you want is more people learning on the lakes and all this sort of stuff, but you don't want really more wave sailors. If you spoke to any wave sailor, you're like, do you want any more wave sailors at your spot? You'd be like, no, I'm all right. I'm all right. Couple, like maybe 2 or 3, but I'm not talking like 20 or 30 or 40, because that's the kind of crazy bit that you forget how busy it was.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. I just remember what it was, but it's also, it's not just the amount of people, but it's the gear we get to use right now. Like I every time I open up the van to pull out a board or sail to rig up, I instantly get a bit of a hit of joy, because I'm like, geez, I'm just like, we've got such good gear now. I mean, compared to what it was, if you've been windsurfing for a long time and you compare what it was 30, 40, 30 years ago,
Can we say the classic line? Can we say the classic line? These kids, they don't know what they've got, do they? These kids growing up today, they don't know.
Mate, I'll tell you what,
they're born.
Mate, if I make it to 80 years old, I'll be wearing this and I'll be sitting on my rocking chair telling it how good it was. But but yeah, anyway, it's just cool. Like, I think it's just a good time. Like, but you know what I mean, Ben? And look, the other thing is, maybe I'm getting a bit, I love my little philosophical rants, as you know, but the other thing is, it's good to appreciate this, but we're also just lucky that, I mean, for example, I was thinking of you, Ben, right? I was thinking, how fortunate are we that, for example, there's a Ben Prophet or a Nico Prian or, a multitude of other people. I put myself in that category. I've put some videos out, but what I'm saying is, we could have easily just lived through this period, and you could have, like 10 years ago, and said, stuff it, I'm going to go work in finance, or like, I don't know, like you could have done anything, and we wouldn't have had any windsurfing TV or content.
But there would have been something else. That's what I think.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
not necessarily. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that it's just a cool time to be involved in the sport. I think it's Anyway, I just wanted to give that. So thank you, Ben.
It's going to get better because there's a new website coming out.
New website?
Yeah.
What? Windsurfing TV one up?
We're working on something at the moment. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but this is not. This is nothing to do with you, George. George, nothing to do with you. To do with the concept that I've come up with as a motivational tool to get you guys out there. So you have to watch this space. There's an ongoing project behind the scenes at the moment, and it's going to be for Windsurfing TV members only. So we'll see. Okay. We'll see how it goes down. But I think it could be quite fun.
That's cool. We'll do a podcast, and you can maybe, when you launch it, you can tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a video kind of tool as well, because the stuff that I want to do is, I mean, I'll give you the idea. The idea is to get you guys at home, like with profiles, and kind of, basically work out what everyone's windsurfing level is in all these different categories. And then we've got like this base to be able to understand what people are wanting, like in terms of like learning and motivating people to learn stuff and to do stuff and go on trips. And again, it's us the summary with a little sneak peek, but I think it could be quite fun.
Sorry. When you said new website, I thought you were talking about just a whole new design of what you currently do. But yeah, you were telling me about this whole idea. This sounds cool. How much can you share with everybody?
Well, we're only at the early stages at the moment, but like, we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it won't go down well, but it's like, my idea is to have like, and I've been told by someone else now, they're like, well, why would I want to be ranked? But I was thinking like a world ranking for your ability in just the whole windsurfing world. Plus you can get your ranking for each individual category. So it could be speed, could be free ride, old school freestyle, like carving freestyle, new school freestyle, wave sailing and wave jumping. And they will all be individual categories. So you can choose what you fill in, but there's basically questions to the moves. And it's like a tick box thing. And you end up with like this kind of score for each category. And then obviously the more you learn on port or starboard and different things, you can kind of move up. And it's more to just to get you guys motivated and work out what kind of videos and what levels we're talking to and who's there and what they're interested in, and then kind of build the community through that. That's the overall kind of thing. It could morph into something bigger and better if it goes down well, or it might not. We'll see how it goes, I guess. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, so I remember, you have spoken to me about this before, like with the ticking of the boxes. So it is the back end of this website just automatically will move you up and down a ranking, does it? Yeah. Okay. So
it'll be like a score. You just kind of fill in. Let's say you learned to duck jibe on port tack. You kind of click what you think the way it's working, and then it will kind of update your score. Again, we'll see. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it's rubbish. Maybe no one wants to do it. But I think even if it's just a small amount of people, it'd be kind of fun. And then your idea is to have friends groups in there where you can kind of almost do like these challenges. The concept comes from like the Big Five, where I had a lot of people asking me like, oh, what about the Big Five? And it's like having like these challenges where you've got to learn that, and that, and then you get this extra little kind of gamified little basically to motivate people to do stuff. Because I think sometimes you get a bit stuck in a rut, especially when you're sailing not with a lot of people or with motivated people, and then you kind of need some external motivation, and videos are good for that, obviously. And then hopefully having something tangible, which is like a scoring program, and then you can kind of get some motivation. We'll see how it goes.
Do you get a score for how many boards you own, and the more you do, then you win?
Well, maybe we'll have an equipment ranking as well. Kit monster. I think that would be quite funny, actually.
No.
Kit monster ranking.
No, but someone's going to have about 100 boards just in the backyard as a fence, and that's funny. Yeah. No, it's no, I like
that
the
guy
idea.
In Maui with the whole thing.
I think it's I think the concept is really good. It's probably just how popular it gets is how you execute the design and how.
Yeah, that's the problem, because you want it to be fun and you want it to kind of bring you in. But like I said, I've got a few ideas. It's just whether the implementation is easy to do is what's in your head. It's never that easy. But we just started a bit ago, so we'll see. We might just roll it out as some sort of basic thing, see how it goes down, and then just grow with it, because it doesn't need to be anything crazily fancy at the beginning. But let's see, maybe Kit Monster. I'm going to add that section in.
So is this only open to people who chip in beer money, or is it?
Yeah, well, basically, I thought about it a lot. It's like the problem is, as soon as you do stuff for free, people take the piss and they don't do it properly. And if you've got someone with vested interest in it, they're more going to be keen. So if they're not willing to put in 25 euros of beer money or whatever, then they don't get the ranking. That's fine. They don't have to, but that's up to them. Sure. So it's more to give something back to the guys that are doing the beer money. They don't have to, but if if they are chipping in, then it's kind of like an extra little fun thing that we can do on it. I think it would just be interesting to make videos. So that's the plan.
Cool.
All right,
Benny, what do you reckon? We wrap it up?
Wrap it up, mate. Wrap it up. What boards are you having? You never said. I told you mine. 84 and 99. What are you having?
If I had two boards?
Two boards. Well, you can choose more if you want, but that's how many I'm reckoning. There's a minimum.
Well, if
I've obviously got like 20, but more maybe.
If I had two boards, it'd be, just because of where I live here, Geraldine, it'd be that Stony and the 88 Goya quad. That Stony I use, if the wind is 20 knots, 22, 23 knots plus, I'm pretty much exclusively on that board in Geraldine. It's just comfortable. Yeah, it's just it's the polyester gives me a bit of flex, and it's just a comfortable board. And the 88 I can use as a one board quiver if you want to just go just about anywhere. I have to just to say as well. I will say that Goya board. I might not have been very clear on my video, because sometimes it's hard to get the words out. But for all I said about it, some of its limitations, I have to say that like that particular board is a great all-rounder. If you want one board that's just plug and play and you just jump on and it's easy and it does turn, it just does everything in a good level. It is a good board. It's a bit like the Flywave in that sense, like you can pretty much just even that Flywave, for example, I know you're with Simmer, so I mentioned that, but you can just jump on that board and it basically just does everything pretty well, doesn't it? It's that type of a board. It's good. So yeah, it's cool. Look, I'd go as far to say that it's the best board I've ever owned as a production board. Like in the sense of it just does everything well. But I haven't owned. There's plenty of boards that could be better. I haven't tried them. I don't know.
You can only go on what you've tried. I mean, that's for sure.
Okay.
Well, let us know in the comments if you've got any nice subjects you want us to discuss. Bring you in. We will be reading out more comments. Last time I know we've been pulling them up on the screen, but we will be reading more out. Obviously, the podcast is going to ramp up as we get into the winter over here. Autumn, winter in Europe. I know we're still summer, but it is going to change pretty quickly. And obviously, Mr. Van Bellen will be going into his summer, which will be windy. And I'm sure he's going to have some tales from over there. So, let us know any sort of subjects. We're going to be pulling off a few from other subjects that are coming up, some topical ones. We might be doing some short podcasts. Now, we have promised this before. We have never managed it, but we are talking about less than 20 minutes. I've got a little subject, come in, bust it out, give us, get some opinions from you guys, give that opinion and then let that subject ride. So keep your eyes out for that. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast channel, or if you don't want to watch it on YouTube, which isn't for everyone's cup of tea, you can join on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and all those ones. I do put the audio link on. So if you're in the car, it can be a good way to listen to it. But that's it. Till the next time. I'm going to go back to baby duties.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. The cause PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.